There's those people that say they can't afford it. They're still in the employee mindset. They're still in that scarcity mindset. And once you start becoming an entrepreneur and you start walking in that, you start going from being a minnow to being a shark and playing with the other sharks. You start to level up your game. You start to realize, like, if there's really true value behind what's being offered to you, money is not a real objection. It's really not. No. Because if I were like, hey man, I got this Rolex that I bought 5 years ago and it was 20 grand, I'll give it to you right now for $100, and you were overdrafted in your bank account, I guarantee you would find a way to go get that $100 to buy that Rolex that was worth 20, so you could go flip it to your buddy for 10.
Hey everyone, it's Jimmy here from My Online Guy. And look, anyone that's been following this channel for a while knows I'm always interested in talking to people who have been able to break free from the 9 to 5 into something they love doing. So from selling cell phones on the 9 to 5 grind to a wildly successful creative agency called Adriangraphics, Adrian now shares what he's learned over the years with others through his network of creative professionals, Instagraphics, and speaking gigs and his YouTube channel. So Adrian, tell us a little bit more about your background and what exactly a creative agency is for those at home who have probably never heard the term before.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate it. So, man, my story goes all the way back to about 2005, 2006, from, like you said, selling cell phones to selling cars and then doing home loans before the big crash. That crash actually started in 2006, and I had just realized that I'd put my income and my future in the hands of other business owners, and I just wasn't willing to do that anymore. I just reached my limit. I realized that I was giving all of my time, my talent, my hard work to people who really didn't value it. They just wanted to make money off my back, off of my talent, and I just was done with that. So I decided to start my own business with the help of a mentor's guidance, my first mentor, Larry. And he's like, dude, you're just so creative. You're so good at doing design. And I had just been doing it kind of as a hobby at that time. I decided to take it seriously and start my own creative business. And that was a print and graphic design shop where it was a retail studio. And to keep a long story short, people would come into my office. It was on a street frontage where there was 50, 60,000 cars going by a day. And they would walk in because I had a sign shaker, I had big, beautiful signage, and they'd sit down and I'd get to know them. I'd listen to their heart. I'd listen to their story and their backgrounds. And, you know, during a recession, a lot of people are going through difficult times. And so I was just somebody that could sit there and listen and hold space for them. And through that process, I built really strong relationships, really good, relationship currency. And I listened to everything that they said, not to just respond, but to actually care about what it is they were going through. And through that process, I developed my own process of designing for them. And that process led me to be able to design business cards and flyers and websites and all these different creative assets right on the spot, right on the fly. And that's where the Instagraphics name came from, is to be able to give them that instant gratification of, hey, I need this design for me. I don't want to wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or 6 months for my website to be done. I need it now. And people paid a premium price for that. And then I was able to upsell printing and SEO and marketing. And even though I didn't know any of the marketing and SEO side of things, I brought in some outside experts. And so I was able to increase my customer value from $100 about to over $1,500. And so that was a really big deal for me to be able to make that shift and just learn that piece of it. But in a short amount of time, 2.5 years, I worked with over 3,000 local business owners in my area. And so that was just a major game changer for me. And I built a big reputation in town. I really gained a lot of skills. Like, all these people were basically paying me to practice and become a better graphic designer and learn some different skills. And so fast forward a couple of years, at about the 4-year mark, I had a former boss that came to me and wanted to buy out my company, but keep me as the CEO and help me kind of scale the business nationwide. That's kind of the vision and the idea he told me. But in the reality of it, I got some money for the business, but he just wanted to take my business model, take my strategies, and take my ideas and implement them into his existing multi-million-dollar business and try to help that flourish even more. And so I ended up having to learn a hard lesson about business at a very young age. I was only about 23 years old at the time, and I was pretty devastated, to be honest. The money was important, and it helped, for me to take a year off and have some money in the bank, but I felt like I just got taken advantage of, that I got hosed for something I worked so hard to build. It was like a part of my identity. So I moved out of California, lived in Illinois, and decided to start learning how to do marketing. And so I went up to Chicago and took classes with Google and their Google Engage program, and just continued to sharpen my skills on the marketing side and understand the Google advertising side of things. So I really saw the digital side growing. I knew the internet was going to be huge. I knew that was really early on. And so I took those skills and started doing marketing consulting for companies all over the country. But right around that time, I decided, because of my mentor, to move back to California. And when I came back to California, I immediately landed a position with my mentor at a home improvement company, which was doing about $800,000 a year at that time. This is about 2011, early 2012. And I ended up helping them, between he and I, scaling that company from about 800 grand to 22 million in just over 2 years. Wow. And so we saw explosive growth from me handling their Yellow Page ads, their Yelp ads, their Facebook ads, everything you could possibly imagine. Their door hangers, their yard signs, their vehicle graphics. I branded and designed and helped come up with the messaging for everything. And during that time, I was able to hire and bring in some high-level experts. And some of those experts became my mentors. And those mentors taught me the science of marketing. And that's where I realized that 99% of the marketplace right now, even to this day, doesn't really understand marketing strategy. They don't. If I ask 1,000 entrepreneurs right now if they have a marketing plan, even marketing agency owners, if they answer me honestly, they all tell me no. They're throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that it sticks. Literally, throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that it sticks. That is not a strategy. That is a plan to fail. And so that's where I was like, here's my opening. Here's my market. I know this better than anybody. There's no one that could beat me in marketing strategy, because nobody's doing this. Nobody's actually developed a proven marketing plan and a marketing strategy that is bulletproof. And so I developed that, and now I've been walking companies through that since 2015. But what I didn't realize is there's two sides to the marketing business. A creative agency is two sides. There's the vision and the strategy, which every marketing agency needs to understand. And then there's the fulfillment and integration of those strategies. And most of them go, oh, well, I figured out Facebook ads, or I took a course on SEO, or I took a course on this, so I'm a marketing agency owner. You're not a marketing agency owner. You have one skill that you've taken and you've monetized. That doesn't make you an agency just because you put an agency name on it. Being an agency is able to offer the vision and strategy and the fulfillment and integration. So that's where I'm helping companies now and doing a lot of consulting and coaching with other agency owners, with other people in the industry, and helping to actually develop these marketing strategies, teaching these marketing strategies, teaching my brand formula that I've created, and helping them implement and integrate that into their agency. Because running an agency is a thankless, almost rewardless job, to be honest. People work with you, they sign up with you, they get all excited. Oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to deal with you for the next year, 2 years. And then 3 months in, they're like, oh, I'm not really getting the results that I thought I was going to get. So I'm out. Or somebody comes in and offers it for $500 a month cheaper, or whatever the reason is. Or most of them, you look at the statistics on small businesses, in the first 5 years, 80% of them fail. So you're constantly having to try to chase new business. And where I see a lot of people fail, and I hope people are listening to this piece very, very closely, is they are doing a very poor job at setting expectations properly with the clients. That's the number one area that I see almost every agency owner fail in. If you're not telling your clients that this is a year commitment, you're setting them up for failure, and you're setting yourself up for failure to have to go constantly chase new clients. And so that's the expectations I set now in the industry with my clients, with my students, and everybody that I'm working with is it's got to be at least a year. If you don't set a year expectation to work with somebody, you're not going to be able to get them the results that they really want. You're not going to do it in 3-6 months trying to tell somebody, oh, I'll rank your website on the first page of Google in 90 days. Dude, good luck. If you're lucky and you find a micro niche within a micro niche within a micro niche and nobody's tapped into, like underwater basket weaving in Oklahoma, cool, maybe you'll get them on the first page in 90 days. But 99 out of 100 times, you're not going to get them there. You need to think long term, just like I've thought with YouTube. YouTube for me has been a 3-year journey, and I'm only at 15,000 subscribers. Now I say only 15,000, but 15,000 people, if I was standing in a room full of 15,000 people right now, that's a lot. I've had 500,000 views in the last 365 days on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. Congratulations on that too. As someone that's taking it more seriously now, it's definitely not easy to get through the noise, right? It's all good and well producing awesome content. That's par for the course. I think in 2022, if you're on YouTube, you should be producing good content because that's what you have to do. But that's what I'm finding is for every person saying that's like yourself, like myself, about these are the real. This is the real truth about running an agency, and this is like, you know, setting expectations is a big thing for myself as well. There's 3,000 people that are out there going, oh yeah, it's, you know, sit on the beach for 4 hours a week and make bank with SMMA, you know, like. So it's like, okay, well, what's a more compelling value proposition for someone that's wanting to make money? Oh, you can make it by doing nothing, or actually, this is the real way, and this is based on experience. But dude, it's interesting. Man, there's so much to unpack here. So I want to wheel back, because there's definitely some topics here I want to cover off. But we'll wheel back to the graphic design company, your first company, right? It's Cali Graphics.
It was California Printing with a K.
Yeah, with a K. Cali with a K. So I remember watching one of your videos, and you mentioned that you know, when you first started producing graphics, you weren't that good at it, right?
Nope.
So how did you go from where? Because there's a lot of people that watch this still have 9 to 5s, still working out, still looking for ways to get out of their 9 to 5 and into something that they control their own destiny with. So how did you go from like not really having, you know, having a core skill set maybe to where you are now? To you know, basically not knowing how to do it.
Yeah. So there's a couple different pieces to that. So there was the core skill set of the graphic design side, right? And with graphic design, I started by doing designs in front of people, and every design that I did, I got a little better and a little better and a little better. But then I started to look and see other people's work, and there were some people in my industry that were doing graphic design and in my industry, but in a different niche, like the nightlife stuff. I used to do nightlife flyers and club flyers and things like that at the very beginning of my career. And as I evolved, I moved into businesses and not so much the nightlife stuff. I kept that foundation of my nightlife style, the hot, the flashy, the wowing kind of, like they really know how to like put a lot of effects and layers and styles and all that. And so that was kind of the beginning of it. And I realized, always thought it was like, oh, the more I put on there, the more beautiful and the more attractive it's going to look. But as time went on, I realized it was about reductiveness, and the less I did, the more impactful it was. And then when I started to learn the marketing strategy, then the content of my graphic design changed. And when the content of my graphic design changed, and it didn't just look pretty, but actually functioned and had a core objective for that piece, that's when I saw the light bulb went off for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the secret sauce. There's a lot of great graphic designers, but they suck at marketing. They suck at putting together the messaging and the strategy that drive them to the outcome that the business owner wants. If it looks great, but nobody moves on it and it doesn't compel anybody, what good was it, right? So I realized to solve a bigger problem, to make more money, is I needed to be able to focus on the end result of what that design piece was for. And my first mentor, I brought him a brochure for a mattress company that I'd done. I was like, hey, check out this brochure I did. And I had been about 2 years into my graphic design, maybe 3 years into my graphic design career at that point. And I was so proud of it. And it was a really beautiful piece. And he's like, wow, this is really nicely designed. He goes, but what's the point? I was like, what do you mean, what's the point? It's a mattress company. Like, you buy mattresses. He's like, where in this does it say to buy a mattress? And then I like opened up the brochure, and I'm like looking at the trifold, and I'm like, oh crap, there's a phone number. And he's like, nowhere in here does it say buy a mattress, get a mattress, you know, apply for finance, like nowhere. And I was like, holy moly, I'm missing a huge opportunity here. So that was kind of the big thing. So that was like my first marketing mentor. He had his PhD, his Juris Doctorate, like he had his law degree. He'd been doing marketing for 35 years at that point. And I was lucky enough to be able to hire him and bring him in as my mentor. And so once I was able to hire that first mentor, not even on my dime, but on somebody else's dime, I was like, all right, I need to go out and seek more mentors like this. So then I started seeking speaking mentors and all these different mentors in my life. I started reading. I went and started buying more books, and I was kind of following some of my brother's principles, who was a lot younger than me at the time. He's like, yeah, I've already read like 25 business books. And I'm like, dude, I've read like 3 or 4, like Think and Grow Rich, and like, I got to start reading more. So I started picking up books like Good to Great. And I mean, we're talking about 2011, 2010, you know, around that time, 2012, close to that. And so I really started to sharpen my axe by reading more. And then around 2013, I read the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes.
Good book.
And dude, that one was like, education-based marketing? Are you kidding me? Game changer. So now I had the science of marketing, education-based marketing. Then I found Ryan Holiday's book, Trust Me, I'm Lying. And I was like, dude, I love books. And so I became obsessed with reading and obsessed with finding coaches. I've hired speaking coaches, storytelling coaches, book coaches, marketing coaches. I joined a program you may have heard of called Job Killing in 2014. That was very new, started by a guy named Dan Klein and Brad Campbell. Brad Campbell was the copy guy, and I learned a lot about copywriting from him, and that changed the game for me too. And then Dan was the sales guy, and he helped me level up some of my sales skills in the digital marketing space. I started building lead gen sites and doing it for other companies and selling that model, and I just continued to sharpen my axe and just put money and investing money into myself. And the more I did that, the more skills I stacked, the more I was able to charge, the better the clients I started working with. I started refining it down. And so, like I said a few minutes ago, from 2006, 2007, about 2007 until 2011, when I sold my printing and graphics company, I had worked with about 3,000 companies. From 2011 to today, I've worked with less than 2,000, right? So I've worked with way less. I'm all about quality versus quantity now. So as I've increased, and probably in the last year, I've worked with like 30, maybe 40 at the most. So as time goes on, I'm working with less and less people, but somehow, if you're listening to this carefully, I'm making more and more money. In 2021, I had my first 7-figure year. How is that possible? Right? Because I'm quality over quantity. I have less headaches, less problems, less nightmare clients, and I'm way more fulfilled in what I'm doing. And I've been able to phase myself out of the fulfillment and integration side and focus on what I'm truly best at, and that's the vision and the strategy side of things and doing marketing planning and brand strategy.
It's so interesting to say that, because everyone sees the, fast forward 10 years from now, right? And like going, okay, well, vision and strategy is what you do now. It's what keeps you fulfilled. But I think, it's a catch-22, right? Because if you don't go through the fire and walk the coals for the first 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, whatever that time frame is, then being at a point where you can charge a premium for your service based on experience doesn't happen. So
right.
Like, I think it's really good you mentioned that, because I've everyone looks at the end results, but actually if you listened carefully, there was a lot of in between where you are now to where you started. Now, wheeling back to where you started again. So those first couple of designs, you said you did them in real time and things like that. One of the things when I talk to people that are wanting to leave what they do now, one of the things that stops them is obviously a fear of the unknown, but mainly imposter syndrome, right? Because they're learning a new skill that they're trying to charge for when they clearly in their mind don't feel like they're providing enough value. So back at the start when you were doing the graphics, how did you get over the imposter syndrome of when you started going, I've only done like 3 designs and I'm trying to charge someone a couple $100 for a logo? How did you get over that imposter syndrome?
That's a great question. And that keyword is something that's become more and more popular, and it's driven me crazy, to be honest, because you can't be an imposter of yourself.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yes.
There's the reality. That was the kind of the bomb that I always thought. I was like, dude, how can you be an imposter of yourself? For me, I had come from a place where I'd been an artist my entire life. And in elementary school, people paid me to draw on their Hot Wheels cars and to draw on envelopes and to draw on stuff my whole life. I was always paid to do art. And so there wasn't anything imposter syndrome for me. I had taken my drawing skills and translated them over to a computer, and I knew for who I was and where I was at the best place I had ever been in my life as far as my skill set. I hadn't gone backwards. I was only moving forward. And I knew that this customer, this person needed something, and that I was going to give them my absolute best. I wasn't going to give them half-ass work. I was going to give them my absolute best, and that I would not be satisfied unless they were satisfied. So if they got to the end of the design, they're like, I don't like this. I'm like, well, then let's start over and let's do it all over again. And I wouldn't charge them for it. And so I put my name behind it. I put my brand behind it. I put my reputation behind it, which meant a lot to me. And so I was willing to go over and above and do whatever it takes to make sure that person was satisfied at the end of the day. If they come to me for a specific end result and that's what I give them and they're happy at the end, I've done my job. Now, valuing myself, that was another thing. That's a completely different conversation. I could talk almost all day about that, because at that time I was charging $30, $40, $50 an hour for what I do, versus now I make a minimum of $150 an hour for graphic design work as an agency. To be honest, a lot more than that on logo projects. Like recently I worked with the lead designer of Lucky Brand, and he did a project with me. We collaborated on it together. We sold a $5,500 logo that cost me $1,500. And it took me less than an hour of working with him on that deal. So I'm making a lot more per hour than I've ever made, and I'm doing a lot less work than I've ever done. So I didn't value myself as much back then in the end result because I wasn't solving a very big problem at that time. I was designing your business card. It was simple, it was easy, it was fast. Design your business card or design a flyer, you were in and out. And so the size of the problem was nowhere near as big as it. Now I'm solving problems of like, hey, I need to cut $100,000 in spend, or I need to add $2 million in revenue or $10 million in revenue. Those are much bigger problems than, hey, I just want my business card to look better. I'm like, cool, yeah. I see your crappy business card, and I can definitely make that crappy business card look better than it did before. So I'm giving you this result, and it's going to cost you $50 for the design and $50 for the printing. I get a $100 bill from you. It was great to meet you. And most people probably at the time were like, dude, I'd pay the $100 just for the conversation we just had, right?
Yeah.
Because they left so inspired and so motivated and so excited for the connection and the relationship that we built, because I was just so genuine. I was almost like a freaking counselor for these people that were going through a difficult time.
I think it's interesting, so because I think you have to go through that, you know, undercharging, undervaluing yourself to appreciate how much value you provide. It's funny because I speak to a lot of agency owners now, especially people that are starting out, and it's always the same thing. They're grossly undercharging for what they do, based on the amount of value they provide, because they think, oh, I'm building a WordPress site, it doesn't cost me that much to do. It's irrelevant how much it costs you to do. It's about how much value you provide, and it's about how much, and it's how big a problem. You know, if you have the only bottle of water on a deserted island, and there's 30 people on the island that need that to survive, you can basically charge whatever you want for it, even though the bottle costs 80 cents. It's like
you sell the client, not the service.
Yeah, and I think it comes from having a 9 to 5 mindset, because you're sort of taught, okay, well, I'm doing an hour of work for $30 an hour. Well, if I do extra, it doesn't matter. Like, if I provide extra value, I'm still going to charge $30. I'm getting paid for the value that perceived value I provide from the business owner. Whereas when you that transition period from going, oh, I'm actually like freed out of the cage and walking around the savannah going, oh, actually, there's all these big gazelle and stuff, but I'm used to eating meat that's just sitting on the ground. You know, I actually get a hunt for it. Yeah.
I have a training that I do specifically on my YouTube that talks about minnows and guppies, like bass, and then you have ocean. You have basically ponds, lakes, and oceans as far as types of clients. The ocean has sharks and whales and dolphins and all these really high level. That's where you want to go fish. If you're a fisherman, the peak of being a fisherman is fishing in the ocean. If you're just starting and you're 8 years old and you're, you know, leave it to beaver status, and you're out there with your little fishing pole or your stick and your line, and you're catching the little tiny little guppies and little minnows. But once you start playing a bigger game, you start solving bigger problems, and you know there's a different game that you're playing completely. And that's kind of the interesting dynamic. Is when I first started, I was dealing with the little carpet cleaners and the handymans and stuff, and there was no way I was going to get them to pay $300 for that business card design. They would have walked out of my place no matter how cool I was, right?
Yeah.
So understanding the type of client that you're sitting in front of and the type of client you're attracting. That's why I do YouTube. That's why I'm speaking. That's why I did a radio show. That's why I have a podcast, because it's influence that is the magnet that brings people that I want to me. Yep. This conversation didn't happen by accident, right?
No,
I attracted this. I created influence through all the content and everything I've given freely without expecting anything in return, and it's come back to me 100-fold, bro. I mean, I just got done with an interview on Friday with digitalmarketer.com, and now I'm going to be one of their trainers on December 6th at the digitalmarketer.com headquarters, right?
Yeah, wicked.
Like, what? Are you freaking kidding me? I never would have imagined in a million years that I'd be sitting here having that conversation.
It's always been the secret. Yeah, secret. I
like that.
It's clearly not a secret, because I have a big mouth and I talk about it a lot. But we haven't spent a cent on paid ads, and the reason for that is for the first 3 years of the agency, I did a live once a week called Frothy Friday. And I just answered people's questions because, I think it's a big misconception and myth, especially in the marketing space for some reason, but like in just life in general, that if you tell someone how to do something, they're going to go off and do it and not use you. But I have never found that to be the case with anything I've ever done in my life.
That's right.
You can tell someone how to do SEO to the nuts and bolts, give them the tools, and they still won't do it because... So like I've just found providing value with no expectation of return, which is something I've seen you do a lot of.
Yep.
It comes back full circle because you build that authority. They know you know how to do it, and when they're ready to do it, you're like, oh, I'll go talk to Jimmy because he clearly knows SEO if he's trying to show people how to do it.
Yep.
And I think there's so many people out there that try and cloak and dagger what they do to try and increase the value of it. When really, if they just did the opposite, they'd probably significantly increase the value of it.
Gary talks about it. I mean, everybody that's legit, that's real in the marketplace has talked about this. Give without expectations of return. I don't have a course for anybody to buy. I don't have a program for anybody to buy. If they want to consult with me and they want me to come in and teach them or consult or coach or do any of that stuff, sure, they can buy that from me. But I'm not out there pushing my stuff. I'm just sharing as much information as I can because, like Alex Hormozi, which everybody's listening to these days, and everybody thinks that they're experts now because they listen to him, just like Alex, is he's educating the marketplace so that the marketplace elevates, right? Rising tides raise all ships. And when they raise to that level, some of them are going to reach that $3 million a year mark. And guess what? Who do you think the first person they're going to contact when they hit that $3 million a year mark? Acquisition.com.
Yep, exactly.
Right? So that's his game plan, and that's my game plan. That's my goal. That's my strategy. I'm just going to keep giving until companies that are doing 3 to 5 million a year are like, hey, we are a great and successful company, but we feel like we're missing some purpose. We feel like we're missing a social impact cause that we really want to put behind our brand. This is what we care about. How can you help us incorporate this into our business? That's where I come in. Hey, whether it's awesome. At-risk youth, I'm wearing my Forever Father shirt, whatever it is, whatever the cause that you have, whatever is breaks your heart in the world, that's what I want to help you do. Because if you're just the kind of guy that's like, hey, I just want to make as much money as possible. I want to make 6 figures a month. Man, I'm rooting for you. More power to you, but that's not for me. Yeah, I'm not motivated by that. I'm not driven by that. I want to help people who want to make the world a better place and do social impact. And so that's my mission and cause.
Yeah, it's because you're right. Like, there is a lot of people, it's also the people you attract, right? Like those people that want to make 6 figures a month. I got off a sales call with someone, and he was a organic sales trainer. And I will have a conversation with anyone. If I feel like there's potential to help me upskill myself, man, just pitch away. I'll listen, There's always nuggets there. Anyway, this guy was like, I was asking about his background and stuff because I'm really big on relationships. I feel like if we're going to work together, you have to know about me. I have to know about you because it's a long-term thing. Anyway, so I was like, asked him about his background. He goes, oh, look, just out of curiosity, why is that important to you? And I was like, oh, well, I come out of agriculture. Everything is based on relationships. And the best way to build a relationship is if you know me and I know you. And he was like, oh, well, look, if you want a friend, then this isn't for you. If you want to make heaps of money, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to help you make heaps of money. I was like, cool, man, it's not for me then. Like, totally. But there'll be 50 other people there. It's like, yep, that's exactly what I want.
Yep.
And I feel like you said just before, the more I've stuck to my personal values with things and gone like, actually, this doesn't feel right to me. I'm just going to put my faith in just letting the world do its thing and go, okay, well, it's not for me. The next person will be there.
That's right.
And I feel like I did a video on not drinking the salt water, which is like if you're marooned on a lifeboat, the last thing you want to do is drink the salt water that's underneath you, even though it's in abundance, because that's a good way to guarantee to kill what you're doing. If you just wait and pray for rain, eventually the rain will come. You just have to have faith that it's going to appear. But getting back to the creative agency and what you're doing now. So what do you feel like, let's say, again, 9 to 5 and you're wanting to get into the agency space. What are some of the pros and cons of really tackling an agency and building out your skills in that area?
I like that. So the pros, there's a lot of pros. If you can build a successful agency that can grow a business, marketing is the one trade where I can put $1 in and take 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, sometimes 20. And if you're just Alex Hormozi, $50 out. Name anything that you can invest in your business besides yourself that you can put $1 in and get 2 to 10 to 20 to $50 out. There's nothing. And so whether you want to have a clothing brand, whether you want to have a store, whether you want to own a football team, whatever it is, you're going to need marketing. And so having a creative agency, a marketing agency that can grow a brand is like having an engine in a car, right? The fuel is sales, but the engine is the marketing side. And so that was the goal why I didn't give up, because I've had lots of ups and downs of my agency. In 2018, I had a horrible year. I went from doing about 400 and something thousand to like 200 and something thousand. in 2018 because of a bunch of personal life issues that I had going on and just the ups and downs of learning how to run an agency. But the pro of it was, now that I've gotten through that, I understand the intricacies of, yes, you need a visionary like me. I'm a visionary, but I was an integrator, but that's not where I perform at my highest. So I went and found 2 integrators, my COO and my CMO, together with with vision, strategy, and the implementation of 2 integrators. That is where I became unstoppable. And so now I have marketing planning, marketing fulfillment, and marketing integration. And I've got this beautiful machine that, whether it's my NorCal Enduro brand or Instagraphics or whatever business, whatever venture I have, my skill stacking, whatever venture I have or project, Roseville Printing, which I still have, I can grow that with my marketing agency. So that's a pro. The cons of that is it's a thankless job from the client side. They're going to work with you, and there's a certain time horizon. Then after a certain amount of time, once you get to, and from what I found, it's about, for some people, it can vary, but for some people, it's about the 6-month mark. For some people, it's about the year mark, but usually it doesn't go more than a year and a half. At about the 6-month to the year and a half mark, somewhere in that range, the client no longer sees you as the person that was responsible for their success. They take the credit for it. They're self-made, right? And then all of a sudden somebody comes to them and says, I can do that cheaper, or I could do this, or I don't think he's doing that right, or I think this, right? And if you're not managing that relationship and you're not intentional about relationship and consistently staying on top of it and doing meetings with them and updating them and really proactive, they will leave because they're like, oh, I don't need this guy anymore. I've already figured it out. I don't need them. And so you're going to have this thing where you bring all these clients and then 6 months in you dip. And then you have all these clients and then you dip. And you do this up and down roller coaster effect. And you just become so frustrated with the ups and downs and the instability of the income. A lot of that comes from a lack of prospecting. A lot of people don't prospect because they prospect, they bring in a bunch of deals, they're like, woo, and then I'm going to keep these clients forever. And then the clients leave like, oh, and they go scramble back to do prospecting again, and they go through these huge dips. That is the con of running an agency. And then you have all the cons of just the technical side of, running paid ads and doing SEO and waiting a year, 2, 3 years to see a return on investment, to just all the different technical issues that you run into, and website hacking and website hosting and just the endless amounts. There's so much technical stuff that you have to know. There's so many skills that you have to stack to run an agency. It's not a one-man job. It's really not. It's not a one-man job.
And it's so funny you mentioned that, because we're only talking about this with Charlie, about the fact that it's not a one-man job. It is a one-man job until it's not.
It's not.
Yeah, it's you can run an agency as one-man band but you're going to
jump off a building in 6 months.
Yeah, you're gonna something will give, and it's like, okay, well, I need someone to help me with fulfillment. I need someone to help me with sales. Something will trigger that.
Yep.
Once you go into that phase of running an agency, you're on the horse whether you like it or not, and it's a very, very different dynamic when you've got like 5, 6, 4 people that you're constantly trying to make sure you pay their payroll. And I've always found that the single most stressful thing is, like, my role instantly changed from enjoying SEO to like generating revenue.
That's right.
And
one more con that just came to my mind that you said that reminds me, the technical learning curve of being an agency owner and how you have to have a technical understanding makes the sales aspect of being an agency owner very difficult to hire out. And that was another con for me, is trying to find somebody to explain SEO the way I can explain SEO to a client, even with trainings and even doing everything that I'm doing, is so hard to find, because it just goes right over people's head. They just can't grasp it. I don't know why they can't grasp it, but I notice younger generations are having an easier time with it. But anybody that's like 35 and older or 40 and older, oh man, they just struggle with it. So finding other people to delegate the sales side of my business to is definitely the hardest part of the agency.
Yeah. It's always been my advantage too, because I'm a lot more blue collar than a lot of people that do this. So when I talk to an engineering company and I'm explaining it simply, it's always a competitive edge. But I always feel like that's the bit that would be, I can find people to help with the other bits of running an agency, but it's such a, and having someone that's got the same commitment to you to go on that little bit extra to get the sale done, when that's it's true. When if they've got the sales ability, there's a good chance they could effectively start their own agency. And because that's the hardest bit to get right, is being able to sell it. Because that's my advice to anyone that's listening to this that is potentially wanting to start an agency. Get good at understanding how it works so you can sell it. Because if you're good at explaining how it works, there's like infinite work out there.
Oh, yeah.
Because for every person that understands it, there's 15 people that are trying to sell it that have no idea what it does.
That's right.
So, you know, you can, it's like goes from fishing with all the little guppies to like, actually, it's all blue. It's all marlin out there, and just need a big enough rod and a big enough boat, and start building all the resources to get the big enough boat to go out and just get all the marlin.
That's right.
Yeah, it's crazy out there. So all right. So you are obviously on the forefront of this now, especially with doing a lot more consulting. You know, knowing what you know now and what you've done in the past, you know, if you were wheeling around again and wanting to start an agency, where would you start? Like, what skills would you be sort of investing your time into, and where would you start in the process?
That's great. So the first place that I would start, let me do this right now. Let me lean over here. The first place I would start is I would pick up this book.
Oh yeah, Traction. Yeah, we do our EOS meetings here. It's amazing.
If you don't have an understanding, a deep, comprehensive understanding of the EOS model as a business owner, you are going to go through more pain than I want to see you go through. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, because that business model is the proven formula to scale any business, whether it's an agency, a contracting company, blue collar, white collar, I don't care what it is. That is the formula. I am all about finding what works and putting gasoline on that fire, right? And so that's the first place I would start. The second place, and I was really resistant to this because I had such a scarcity mindset around money, is I would probably, and if you do have a scarcity mindset around money, you need to read the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, and that'll change your life around money.
Do you just want to explain what a scarcity mindset around money is? Just quickly.
Scarcity mindset is you think that there's a lack of money, or that you can't make investments because you don't have the money. There are certain things that you can't afford not to do. You can't afford to not invest in coaches. You can't afford not to invest in marketing. If you're a marketing agency and you're not spending money on your own marketing, you have no business being in marketing, right? You have to make the investments into these things to be able to level up and to cut down your learning curve. The name of the game in business is to cut down that learning curve. Alex talked recently in a video about there's about $75,000 worth of knowledge. And it's probably, to be honest, I think it's probably closer to like $100,000 in knowledge. There's about $100,000 in knowledge that you need to acquire. You can do that over my time span of 15 years to acquire that $100,000 worth of knowledge. Or you can make and do the hard work a full-time job, put as much money as you can away with your full-time job, and then have a side business and use as much of that profit as you possibly can in the first year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe even 5 years to investing into acquiring that knowledge. What's the knowledge I need on leadership? What's the knowledge I need on sales? What's the knowledge I need on financing? Or finances? What's the knowledge I need on operations? And what's the knowledge I need on fulfillment? Those 5 areas of your business. If you don't have comprehensive, deep knowledge in each of those areas, you need to go get it. Right? So hiring coaches, hiring mentors, hiring people who can come in and consult. I would have hired a business consultant day one. Would have started reading this book. I would have hired somebody to help me set up my company the right way, set up my pricing the right way, my products the right way, my packaging the right way, my positioning the right way, everything, my systems, the way name my files. I mean, everything about my business I would have set up from the very beginning, because I've had to go back after the fact and go change it, which has caused way more. You know how many CRMs that I've had to develop over the years? Like, build out a whole CRM, get it all set up, and then 3 months later, like, I don't like that, and go to another.
I realize
CRM.
It doesn't do something, yeah.
And it doesn't do everything that I want to, right? If I had just paid a consultant, I would have saved myself the 6 months of time, and I would have, the opportunity cost that I lost in those 6 months would have far outweighed what it would have cost me to hire the coach and paid him $3,000, $5,000, even $10,000. Like, people just think so small when it comes to money. It's frightening. They're like, I don't want to spend that $300. I'm like, $300? You spent that this month on caffeine. Like, dude, cut out the caffeine for a month and spend the $300 on the coaching group at the Lion's Den, and go surround yourself with high-level entrepreneurs and ask them questions. Ask for help or give up on your vision, right? So that's where the biggest advice, if I was starting at the very beginning, I would have put myself in coaching groups. If I didn't have a lot of money, then I would do things like Lion's Den or Arte Syndicate or, $1 Billion Brotherhood. I would put myself in community with high-level people, right? Hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll become the 6th. That isn't some like woo-woo statement. That's a real statement. Hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll become the 6th. And so I would put myself around those people. I would pay whatever it took. If there's the best graphic designer on the planet that lives in my town, I better go pay him whatever he asks to go sit down with him for an hour. Hey, can I take you to lunch? I'll pay for your lunch, right? Whatever you got to do to invest into people, you got to do it. Like one of my mentors, and this is where the light bulb went off for me again, was on the speaking side. Was my mentor was like, you want to go get in front of the best speakers in the world? You want to go get on the biggest stages in the world? He goes, when I started my career, pretty early on within the first few years, I went to a charity event where Gene Simmons and Katie Holmes were doing a charity auction, and Gene Simmons was there. And everybody else, they were like, oh, $500, $1,000, $1,500. And I just raised my hand. I said, I'll give $50,000 to the charity. Gene Simmons jumped off the stage, ran up to my mentor, and freaking literally kissed him on the cheek and said, who the heck are you, dude? You're amazing. Tell me what you do. And he's like, well, I'm America's Secret Millionaire, and I teach people how to speak and sell on stages, and I tour all over the country doing speaking in colleges. And he's like, man, I need to talk to you, right? Gene Simmons hired him and has spent $100,000 a year for over a decade with this guy. So think about that. He put 50 grand in, and he's taken over $1 million back. So you have to pay to put yourself in proximity. So that's why I hired Tom Bilyeu and gave him $45,000 for a 90-minute talk, because now I can go make a call, send a text message, and Tom's going to go, oh, it's Adrian. Maybe he has another $45,000 gig for me, right? He may not even take it nowadays, but that is what I'm saying is I want people to walk away with pay to put yourself in proximity with the people who have what you want to have.
Yeah, and I think also, too, part of what makes people successful in any endeavor, doesn't matter if it's online, gigs, site, whatever, is the tenacity to go, okay, well, maybe I don't physically have the $1,000, right? Some people just don't have that. Let's be honest and pragmatic. There is ways to get that, but let's say I don't have $1,000, right? So the people that do really well in the business are like, okay, well, I'm not going to let that stop me from actually doing it. Okay, I'm going to go sell some furniture. I'm going to go mow lawns, or whatever it takes to get the job.
Donate blood plasma.
Exactly. It's like that's the mindset of money. That is probably been the biggest thing that's helped me out, honestly, because I don't look at, when I talk to clients now, and so when I first started, I was always worried. It's like, oh, it's a lot. It's like, actually, it's so insignificant to a lot of these businesses. They got bigger problems than the marketing that you're doing. If you're doing it right, then them not getting back to you on an email is probably because they're not worried about it. They've got so many problems. And them paying $1,500, $2,000, $5,000 a month is so insignificant to the amount of other problems that they got, that, a $30,000 machine's just broken down. Okay, well, me not getting back to you means I'm not unhappy with you. It just means that I've got bigger problems than what you have. And
that's right.
I've honestly found that now. So like as you would have seen, I'm making a big push right now into improving the quality of the content that we produce. That's costing a lot of money, but I also am like, well, it will come full circle. I don't know when, but it will come full circle. I've done it enough times now where I'm like, okay, if I spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month getting editors helping me cut, repurpose content, then at some point in the future, I'll be like, wow, that was a really good investment.
That's right. And
it probably won't be a direct investment, but I'll be like, okay, well, I got this because if you peel back enough layers, it was from this video I made 18 months ago.
Yeah. I've got $150,000 right around that range invested just into my YouTube. Only YouTube. Not only that, but I put $2,500 a month into my SEO on my website consistently since the very beginning of the pandemic, like end of 2019, beginning of 2020. I've been doing that consistently. And I've got, I don't know how many, you do the math on that. It's a ridiculous amount of money, plus the $100,000 that I've spent in mastermind groups and coaching and all that. So in the next year or two, I'll have $500,000 invested into myself and into coaching and into my YouTube channel and all these things. But I had a 7-figure year last year. The first year I spent $15,000 to join the $1 Billion Brotherhood for 1 year, 15 grand for 1 year. My income, my revenue for my company went up 200 grand. Yeah. That was the best $15,000 I could have ever spent in my life.
And right? I tell people this as well, right? Okay, so if you're going to start machinery rental company, let's say you were going to rent out compactors and things like that, you'd probably spend $500,000 just on equipment, right? You've been able to spend $500,000 developing yourself, which is a permanent lifestyle. It's a permanent ROI.
That's right.
For your rest of your life, as well as growing your business and getting a direct ROI. There's business out there where you spend $500,000 and you don't even make a cent of revenue yet. So like, where you can't have your cake and eat it too, and start, say, an agency and spend $1,000 to start it and expect to get the ROI if you're not willing to invest into either yourself or the business to continue to grow. It doesn't exist out of the realms of the real business world.
That's right.
It's just, it feels like it does because the cost of entry is so much lower. But the real agency, like the real people making real money, if you speak to them, because I've spoken to a lot now, all invest, whether it's in themselves or into their team, like with EOS and things like that.
Yep.
All invest what they would have invested if they were starting another business. They've just invested it in different things.
That's right.
And I feel like that's the difference between the agencies that are really successful and do really well versus the ones that just sort of flounder along at 10 grand a month, 11 grand a month sort of thing.
Yep.
And that's a mindset shift, right?
That is. It's a huge and there's those people that say they can't afford it. They're still in the employee mindset. They're still in that scarcity mindset. And once you start becoming an entrepreneur and you start walking in that, you start going from being a minnow to being a shark and playing with the other sharks. You start to level up your game. You start to realize, like, if there's really true value behind what's being offered to you, money is not a real objection. It's really not. No. Because if I were like, hey man, I got this Rolex that I bought 5 years ago and it was 20 grand, I'll give it to you right now for $100, and you were overdrafted in your bank account, I guarantee you would find a way to go get that $100 to buy that Rolex that was worth 20, so you could go flip it to your buddy for 10 and get yourself out of a shitty situation, right? So if there's enough value there, if you build enough value, then people will find a way. My mentor Nicholas talks about that all the time. He's like, dude, if I had a piece of property on the beach in San Diego, and I told you it was 20 grand, and you didn't have the 20 grand in your bank account, I bet you'd be making phone calls and figuring out a way to get that 20 grand. You'd be donating an organ or whatever it took to get that $20,000. And I know a lot of people who won't even spend $300 or $500 a month. And I'm like, dude, you got $1,000 worth of video games and a video game console sitting right there, bro. Go sell all that stuff right now and go join the Lion's Den and watch where your life is in 30 days. You're going to be able to buy 10 of those video game sets, right?
It's so true. Like, when there's a direct ROI, it's easy. It's an easy mathematical equation. It's like, okay, you buy this Rolex for $200, you sell it for 20 grand. That's one level of person, like one level of mindset. The next level of mindset is the ones that can see indirect ROI and go, okay, well, if I invest this over time, I'm going to get this. Then there's like a third tier, like 3D chess level, where the people that can see not only direct, indirect, but they can also see future trends and see like, okay, well, if I invest in this now, in like 5 years, this isn't even a thing, or this isn't even what I'm going to do. But like in 5 years, where I want to be as a goal, these skills of investing now at this price is going to give me this investment in the future because the cost is going to be, or whatever that is. That's right. You talk to like billionaires and those kind of people that are making, where money is never an issue for them. That's the mindset. They think, I'm buying these oil rigs or whatever. I'm buying these gas wells because I know in 5 years, with the current economic climate and stuff, that they're not worth anything now. And it's a huge investment, but I know that trends and everything like that. So
you're planting seeds, right? You're just planting seeds. Yep. What kind of seeds are you planting? Are you planting little herb seeds? Are you planting trees? Trees take a long time to grow. Are you planting a farm full of trees? Like it's just understanding the size of the opportunity, and that's what YouTube is. YouTube is one of the greatest opportunities of our generation. It is definitely one of the greatest. I've heard several people
say that now.
Yep.
It's part of the reason I'm taking it more seriously. I've never really taken it seriously because I've had no requirement to, and I still don't necessarily have a requirement to. But what I've found, right, and I'm curious to hear if you had this same problem, because I'm a visionary as well. We're elbow deep in EOS here, and I'm 100% the dude, the visionary, But what I found here is that like once I sort of it all clicked, especially around search engine optimization and the agency was running along, I lost the challenge. Mm-hmm. That's where a lot of my stress was coming from. It's like, there's the challenge. So I've shifted back to doing things that I'm not comfortable doing deliberately now. So like YouTube, TikTok especially, it's like I'm I've never been comfortable doing them. I've never had success in them, and it pisses me off that I haven't. So like, I'm like, now I'm tackling this the same way I would tackle anything else I've done in my life, just learning everything about it.
Yep.
And using that as the new focus. And once I get on top of YouTube and TikTok, there'll be something else. But have you found the same thing where you were just going through the motions at you're finding new ways to challenge yourself?
Yeah, I think that when you become stagnant and you become complacent, you start to become unfulfilled and bored. And you start looking for other things. That's where the shiny object syndrome becomes really, really intense for people. And when they're usually looking for other things, other ideas, it's because of what they're doing in their business. Most people don't want to do the hard, boring work. And sometimes I have to give people tough love in what I do and be like, dude, you just got to stick to what you're doing and do the hard, boring work. It's not fun, but it's the path that's going to get you to where you need to go. And you're not spending enough time investing into your knowledge, into your education, and into your growth. Right? What coaches are you working with? Dude, I have 5 coaches right now. 5, right?
Yeah, wow.
I talk to people like, oh yeah, I had a coach last year. I'm like, last year? What about this year? You know, so people really need to take that seriously as like the best players, the best in the game. You either want to be the best or you want to be third best or fourth best. Nobody remembers those guys. They only remember the guy who went all in on himself and made the investment and did everything that it took to reach the top. And it's just kind of like similar with pricing. People only remember the top guy and the bottom guy. Everybody else in the middle, they're like, oh, I just want to be in the middle, somewhere fair. And I'm like, no one's going to remember you. No one's going to care. You're just going to be clouded out with everybody else that's saying the same things because they have these limiting beliefs around money. Being a premium product, being a premium provider, that is the name of the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm going to ask this because I have a genuine interest in this. How do you go about finding mentors and coaches and people to help you improve yourself? Because I've always found it difficult to find, and maybe this is a self-limiting belief, but I've always found it difficult to find coaches and mentors and things like that. And it could be just because I'm not putting myself out there.
It doesn't seem like you're struggling to find one because you're sitting here talking to one right now, bro.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I suppose it's more direct. Like you talk about. I've had a lot of people in my life that have helped me.
Yeah.
Get to different phases.
Yep.
And never explicitly like shaking hands and going, okay, well you're taking me to there. It's sort of just through organic osmosis, just learning as I go. Yep. But I hear people talk about mentors and coaches and going, I'd love to have that relationship. I'm just curious to know how you got to the point where you have 5 coaches at once, and how unpack that a little bit. How does that actually work?
So I set goals, right? I have very specific goals with very specific timelines. I have a book I'm working on. I've been working on for 2 years called Design Your Future. That book was very overwhelming for me. I'm not a writer, but I'm learning to become one. I'm gaining that skill. I have 4 other books now because I understand how to put together a book. I have 4 other books in the pipeline. Once I'm done with my first book, I have 4 other books that I'm going to write. One of them is about America and how it's the greatest brand ever, right? I have a whole book I've already outlined and I'm putting together for that. So what did I do? I put on my mastermind group, hey, I'm looking for an incredible book coach. Anybody know anybody? And I knew that I was around my high-level guys that I'm paying $15,000, $20,000 now a year to be a part of. And they go, oh, Brian is the guy that you want to talk to. Cool. Hey, what's up, Brian? I'm Adrian. I'm trying to write my first book, and I'm really struggling. I need some help. Can you help me? Sure. It's going to be $2,000 a month, or it's going to be $2,500 a month. Awesome. My other goal that I have is, hey, I want to become a really great speaker. Do you know anybody that is a really great speaker? I put that out to some of my friends that were high-level speakers. They're like, oh, you need to go talk to this guy, James Malinchak, or you need to go talk to this guy, Gary Zaleski. Right? I hired 2 of those coaches. Another goal, I want to become a really good CEO. Who can I talk to that's a really good CEO? Oh, you should probably go talk to Mark Haney. He's right around the corner. He runs multiple successful companies. He's an angel investor. Go talk to Mark Haney. Awesome, right? So I have all these different areas of my life. Hey, I need a fitness trainer because I've never really taken my fitness seriously, and I want to get shredded. I want to go from 150 to like 180, and I want to be shredded, calisthenics, like just ripped. Who do I know? Well, everybody's like, well, you should probably hit up this Mickey Jogoloff guy because he's freaking phenomenal. I'm like, cool. How much, Mickey? He's like, $5,000. I'm like, done. I gave him $5,000. If you had told me that I would put $5,000 for a fitness trainer 5 years ago, I would have laughed. I'm like, yeah, freaking right, dude. I make $5,000 in a month at that time 5 years ago. And then when I sat down with another digital marketer like you, and he was like, yeah, I pay myself 10 grand a month. And he had 10% of the knowledge that I had, and had been in business for 1/10 of what I had been in business for. And I'm like, I'm paying myself 5 grand a month. He's paying himself 10. I value myself half as much as he does. I wonder what would happen if I paid myself just as much as he's paying himself. And all of a sudden, magically, my income for my agency went from doing 400 and something thousand to 600 and something thousand. And I was just like, oh, the more I value myself, the more I start investing into myself and actually giving myself what I deserve and not martyring myself constantly for my business, right? That was how I was justifying, oh, I'm putting the money back into my business. That was a bunch of BS. Once I started putting that money into my pocket, and all of a sudden I could buy nicer shoes, and I could buy a suit, and I could start buying a nicer car, and I could do all these different things. Then my life started to change, my perspective, my identity started to shift. And I was like, all right, dude, this is the name of the game right here. I just have to keep investing. I have to keep finding coaches in every area of my life. My spiritual life, and my physical life, and my personal life, and my relationships. I have counselors and therapists, and dude, you wouldn't believe what my schedule looks like. It's insane, dude. I have a piano teacher. I even learning how to play piano, and I pay my piano guy $20 a week to come and teach me piano. And I've been doing that for 2 years, and now I can read music. Like, I'm writing a song for my wife and for my daughter. Like, these are goals, very, very specific goals and targets that I've set for myself, and I do anything that it takes to get there.
So, oh man, so what piece of advice? Because obviously, the power. I truly believe in the power of that, especially the burning the boat side, where, you know, like you said, you pay yourself 10 grand a month. The world just has a way of working that out if you have the right mindset towards it. You know, if you were to, so I always put this to people when they're 9 to 5. It's like, okay, so you got made redundant to tomorrow. What would you actually do? So, like, if it wasn't a choice and it was just through necessity, what would you actually do? Like, what would the steps be to going, okay, well, and saying, like, getting another job's not an option. It's just got to make it your own. What would you? Right. I would sell this. I would sell my. Well, go and do that. You know, you don't have to lose your job to go through that, to do that process. Just getting that mindset of, like, actually, like, action happens through necessity sometimes. Yep. And why don't you just artificially create the necessity? And, you know, so what would you tell someone that's sitting here listening to this and is super motivated right now? What would you tell them, like, if they have a 9 to 5 and they want to get out of it? You know, what would your advice be to them?
Make a plan. Make a freaking plan, because until it's in writing, until it's on paper, until it's in some Google Doc, Word doc, I don't care what it is, you need to put it down. It needs to be simple. It needs to be attainable, just like the SMART goals, right? Simple, memorable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Like, you need to put a time frame on it. And it's insane when you put timelines. Like, I used to put timelines of, like, oh, I'm going to do this in the next 6 months. And then one of my mentors challenged me. He's like, dude, I want you to do it in the next month. And I'm like, dude, there's no way I could do that in a month. And somehow magically I made it happen in a month, certain things. And I was just like, what? Wow. All right. So put that pressure. If you give yourself too much time, you're going to wait to the last minute if you're a procrastinator. And I'm a procrastinator. So I give myself a lot less time than I used to accomplish things. A lot of people, what they can accomplish in 30, 60, 90 days takes most people a year to accomplish. And that's the thing with the fitness thing, is you got to be careful with that. Because for me, like, okay, I want to gain 25 pounds in the next 90 days. I realized that just the amount of calories I have to eat per day and the lifestyle change that I have to do alone is just not realistic. So I'm readjusting how I'm going to get there. The goal doesn't change. I'm still going to gain 25, 30 pounds. But I'm going to do it in 6 months versus 3 months. So you got to be really honest with yourself. What's realistic? If you just burn yourself out and try to burn the candle at both ends, it's not going to be healthy. But you got to put it in writing. Start with a plan. That's where everything changed for me.
Such good advice, because, like, I feel like a lot of the reason people don't jump off the cliff and into what they want to do themselves is because of that. There is no
clarity.
The clarity and sense of urgency, right?
Yep. So,
like, you know what it's like. Especially, and this is, if someone's thinking of running an agency, this is a real thing. You can have a month where you get 1 or 2 leads instead of 15. It's like there's a sense of urgency then, and I find that when I make the most money is when I have that sense of urgency. It's like, okay, there's not many leads coming. I better go and fix that.
Right, you know? Exactly.
So I'm out there picking phones up and calling people. It's like, and then you learn to harness. It's like a raw ball of energy. And you have to, like, harness it and put boundaries around it, like you were saying, goals, right? So, like, if your raw ball of energy is like, I'm just super motivated, I'm super keen, I'm going to learn everything. Okay, well, that raw ball is just a flowing bit of energy. If you whack some boundary and go, in 6 months, this is what's going to happen, you start to point it in one direction and harness it. It's like, it's impossible not to succeed when that happens.
That's right. Some people might be able to accomplish, hey, I want to quit my job in 6 months. There might be some people that are listening to this that are really skilled, that know a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today, and they can do it in 30 days. They can do it in 60 days. They just haven't set a time and a deadline to make it happen. And so that's one thing. And then a lot of people too, I think this is another thing I found, that they don't know what they want. And that's something, that's the first step. If you don't know what you want, then your only job and your deadline for that is to figure out what the heck you want. So give yourself 30 days to figure out what it wants. Give yourself a week. Give yourself 24 hours to figure out what you want. And when I say what you want, you need to be so simple and so specific that you can say it in one sentence.
Yep.
One sentence.
Yep.
What is it that you want? I want to help 1 million entrepreneurs. Whatever. I want to help 1,000 people. I want to help, right? I want to be able to quit my job in 90 days. I want to be able getting very, very specific and being able to say it in one sentence is the key to that.
Oh, it's so true. And I think if anyone's watching this, I advise you to go back and unpack a lot of this, because it was pretty rapid fire today, because we're just running out of time. But there's a lot of what separates people that are running a business from people that want to run a business is literally mindset. Because skill-wise, like Adrian was saying, there's people out there making way more than both of us combined that have like a fifth of the skill that we do.
Yep.
But skill doesn't decide how much you make a lot of the time. It's your perception of your own personal value. And at the moment, if you're in a 9 to 5 and you're not starting a business, your perception of your value is what you're getting paid now.
Yep.
That's your value. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's people that I wish I was one of those people that was super content just working a 9 to 5, coming home, because quite frankly, working a 9 to 5 a lot of time is way less stressful than running a business.
Oh my God. Yeah. Dude.
But then the trade-off for me is, like, Adrian's family is really important to me, and it created a vehicle to be able to spend more time with my family. So it's like, okay, well, what value does that have then? So Adrian's point about getting in, really defining why you want to do it, and you know, it could be money, but a lot of the times there'll be someone else, there'll be some number, you know, whether it's with me, it's 4, right? The number 4 is what drives me, and that's because there's 4 people in my family, and that's what all of my decisions, all the decisions in life are based around that number 4.
Nice.
So we just, like next year we're going traveling for a year, probably to the detriment of the agency a little bit, but it's like, actually the number 4 is more important to me than 1 million.
That's right.
Or 2 million.
That's right.
So like, you got to have that, because when it gets tough and you're doing 20-hour days and you're stressed out and stuff, there's got to be something that you can go, why am I doing this? Why am I making like 30 grand a year? What is driving that? Totally. And if you don't have that, then you'll go straight back to 9 to 5, right?
Yep. 100%.
So dude, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed chatting to you about this, because, you know, again, it's not about the vehicle that you take to get rid of the 9 to 5 and into whatever, because you're going to see as we make more of these interviews, there's literally thousands of ways to get rid of the job and move into what you want to do.
Right.
It's more this.
Yep.
It's more this, and having the mindset that actually what you'll see as we start to continue to talk to more people is everyone thinks the same way. I've interviewed 7 people now, and everyone thinks exactly the same way. They have different ways of articulating it, but there's always, you see, ROI. It's all about ROI. It's all about investing in yourself. Everyone says the same stuff. They just have different accents, flavors, stories. Exactly. So, dude, thank you so much. Now, tell everyone quickly about this consulting, because it's something I'm genuinely interested in, and there's definitely businesses that watch this. So, how can you help businesses with the consulting?
So on the consulting side, I have 2 different options. I do my CMO, basically a chief marketing officer, where I can come in and work with your company to help really develop your marketing strategy and develop a full marketing plan. And I go through all the different phases of that, and that's a longer engagement. It's typically about 6 months of working together. Or I do a brand strategy. Those are my 2 main things. So the brand strategy is a 1 day, whether I fly out to you, you fly out to me, and we spend an entire day and we go deep. What is your mission? What are your voids? What are your values? Who are you? What makes you special? And I dive so deep. This is more than just a business brand strategy meeting. This is a personal brand strategy, because a lot of people that have done this with me, I've done over 100 of these at this point. The main common thing that everybody says is, dude, this was one of the best investments I've ever made. I understand so much more about myself than I even understand about my business. Like, this wasn't even for my business now that I look at it. This was for me. And so whether it's the brand strategy and really diving in and honing in on your brand and getting your story and your archetype and everything very clear, or it's the marketing side and developing a marketing plan and something that's executable and integrated into your business, either one of those I can help you with. And that's my wheelhouse. That's my zone of genius. That's what I do best. And that's where I've been able to generate literally over $100 million for companies, is just from those two things.
And how many businesses out there do you feel like don't have a real plan when it comes to this stuff?
90. It'd have to be 99, 98%.
Yeah, I would agree, because I'm seeing that a lot. We're making a big shift in our agency in regards to what we do as a business, and that's because of that. It's like it's never one thing that fixes a business's core problems.
Yeah.
It's never just SEO, right? Like someone, come and do SEO. Okay, well, where are your leads going? What happens to those leads when they come into the business? What happens? How do you process them? How do you reactivate them? All that stuff. It's like, oh, no, just SEO. It's okay, well, here's 100 leads. Okay, well, lose 60 of them because you don't manage it properly.
That's right.
And so, like, I feel like there's so many businesses that could benefit from, like, not the plan is one thing, but just clarity of direction and going, okay, well, this is the path to the chosen land. Let's just walk that path and, use other providers if need be. But, like, you got to have the path. If you're walking through the forest without any direction, you're going to end up walking in a big circle. So
you need the plan.
If you're a business and you're sitting there going, I don't know whether to do SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. I have no clarity about what I need to do. Hit Adrian up, adrianboysel.com. That's right?
Yep. You said it perfect.
Adrian Boysel. Excellent. adrianboysel.com. I'll leave it in the comments. Go and check it out. Have a chat. I'm sure you'll work out pretty quickly whether it's for you or not. Have a chat. And that's my advice to anyone. We'll just end on this. This is my advice to anyone that is in that position, that weird position where they're like, I want to start something, I'm not sure, don't have mentors, don't have the network, don't have the circle. Just ping someone. There's so many people out there that are willing to help you if you just ask the question. And the amount of people that I've helped just through casual conversations help clarify things for them, because we don't have time to pull punches, right? So, like, if what you're saying from an experience perspective doesn't make sense to me, I'm going to tell you. And it takes like 2 minutes out of my day. I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. So if you're around, like, floating around trying to work out what you're going to do, just ping someone, ping myself, ping Adrian, whatever. And we can, you can get a bit of clarity like that and start that journey. Don't let not knowing, having a circle of friends and a network stop you from at least starting the journey. Because I'm sure when you started, Adrian, you didn't know any of these people that you know now.
Nope. Nowhere near. Nope. And you got to ask for help or give up on your vision. That has been the most game-changing thing for me. Humility, put aside your pride, your ego. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. So you got a lot of people out there that want to help, that get fulfillment from doing this, like you and I.
Yes,
and I think
100%.
You do yourself an injustice, and you do us an injustice by robbing us of that, by not asking for
100%.
help. So,
dude, it makes us better too. So, Adrian, dude, thank you so much for jumping on. I'll leave all of Adrian's details in the comments. And if you have any questions, go check out his channel. Go check out adrianboysel.com. If he's doing a good job, you should be able to find him. That's what I tell everyone. So go and find Adrian, have a chat to him, and I'll catch you all next week.
Thank you.